I'm going to present before you important 7 changes. 7 changes. यानी मैं आपके सामने 7 important changes आज discuss करने वाला हूं. The first one, for availing GST input tax credit, there are 4 conditions to be satisfied under section 16 subsection 2 of CGST Act. What are those 4 conditions? As a buyer or recipient, you should have tax invoice copy. Second, you must have received goods or services. Third, your supplier must have paid taxes, and this, which is the disputed one. So I will discuss this particular clause, section 16, subsection 2, clause C, in later part of my presentation. But provision is supplier must have paid taxes. And last, being recipient, you are regularly filing GST return. 4 conditions need to be satisfied. Finance Bill 2021 has introduced the 5th clause now. 5th clause now. And this 5th clause says, when you're availing credit on the basis of invoice and debit note, then such invoice and debit note must be furnished by the supplier in a GSTR 1 and must be communicated to the recipient. That is what the 5th clause under section 16 subsection 2 subclause AA. It is now being notified from January 1, 2022. Now there are certain queries which I got in my mind. I want to get it clarified. Yes, this clause is saying that invoice and debit note on which you are availing credit as a buyer must be furnished by the supplier in a GSTR 1 and must be communicated. When we talk about communicated, immediately it comes to a mind whether it is going to be auto-populated in GSTR 2A or 2B, and what would be the eligible document which I need to reconcile. Another change, Rule 36, Sub-Rule 4, which was introduced on 9th of October 2019. There was capping of initially 20% credit pertaining to such invoice and debit note, which is not furnished by the supplier in a GSTR 1. So there was capping of 20% initially, reduced to 10% from 1st January 2020, then reduced to 5% from 1st January 2021. Now this Rule 36 Sub-Rule 4 is substituted from January 1, 2022. And what is this substituted rule is saying? That no GST input tax credit. Buyer will not get any credit, no GST input tax credit, unless the supplier is furnishing such invoice and debit note in a GSTR 1. Those who are quarterly filer through invoice furnishing facility. So first condition, that GST input tax credit would be available only when invoice and debit note furnished by the supplier in a GSTR 1. And if you happen to be quarterly filer, then through invoice furnishing facility. And it must be communicated to the recipient in GSTR 2B. In GSTR 2B. So what is the answer coming out? Panchvi condition. 4 condition was already there. Now 5th condition got inserted, and it is saying that as a buyer, as a recipient, if you're availing credit on the basis of invoice and debit note, then that must be furnished by the supplier in a GSTR 1 or through invoice furnishing facility. And it must be auto-populated and communicated through GSTR 2B. Point is very, very clear. Now, certain question which is coming out in my mind, and I'm finding a lot of queries in the market. So you must make a note of it, and you should also answer it. See, 2B normally auto-populated on 14th of next month. 14th of next month. Let's take an example so that we can understand. If I'm taking example of January 2022, and I need to take credit as a buyer, as a recipient, what I need to ensure, I need to cross-check the credit with my GSTR 2B, which is auto-populated on 14th of next month. So 14th of February. You know, monthly supplier, monthly filer, they're supposed to file by 11th of next month, 11th February. Those who are quarterly filer by 13th of next month. And then it gets auto-populated in GSTR 2B by 14th of next month. My first question, and you must answer, all of you must answer. And I'm going to resolve everything today, don't worry about. My first question, and first question is very prominent. If some supplier file his GSTR 1 late, let's say on 12th of February, pertaining to January 2022, that is also getting auto-populated in GSTR 2B on 14th of next month. But what happened if some supplier filing GSTR 1 on 14th of February or 15th of February? My simple question, whether this is going to be auto-populated in GSTR 2B pertaining to January 2022, say yes or no. So your answer must come in a chat box, no. Yes or no. So maximum of you are saying no, sir, it will not be. It will not be. It will not be. So now what is the situation? You have to make sure your supplier is tax compliant. You must know your supplier, and he must file his GSTR 1 by due date. Maximum वो 12 को भर ले अगर monthly filer है, or 13th of next month getting auto-populated on 14th. But beyond that, it is not getting auto-populated. So your credit is going to be postponed for succeeding month. So 1 month working capital. First point. Second point to all of you. As we know, GSTR 2B gets auto-populated, and that too through GSTR 1. We understand. But there's certain transaction which never gets auto-populated in GSTR 2B. Like import of goods. You are recipient and importer, buyer. Filing your bill of entry for the import of goods. That's not getting auto-populated in GSTR 2B. Import of services, you're paying under reverse charge liability. Or you are paying RCM liability when you're procuring from unregistered supplier, or it happened to be specified goods or services for RCM liability. Specified goods for RCM, notification number 4/2017, and specified services for RCM, notification number is 13/2017, and you pay RCM liability. That is not getting auto-populated in GSTR 2B. My question to all of you, whether that credit is not available because it is not getting auto-populated in GSTR 2B. Tell me, credit would be available or not available? Yes or no? That's what I'm asking to all of you. So it is available, definitely available. Only need CBIC must clarify this issue. They must issue clarification, circular in this regard. Being a RCM liability, you are recipient, you are paying. If you're importer of goods, bill of entry is the eligible document. if RCM liability from unregistered supplier self-invoice generated is an illegible document. You have to pay in cash. That is the only condition. But that credit would be available. Second part. Third part of the story, which is very, very important, and I'm looking for the answer. So this subclause AA under section 16, subsection 2, getting notified, which is a prospective clause, not the retrospective one, from January 1, 2022. We are getting a lot of notices from the department that whatever credit availed in GSTR 3B is not matching with the credit coming in GSTR 2A or 2B. I'm sure you must be having some of the notices, either for your company or for your client, and department is disputing. My question to all of you, prior to 1st January 2022, whether my credit is dependent on GSTR 2A or 2B? That is the simple question I'm posting to all of you. Please tell me whether my credit is really dependent on GSTR 2A or 2B. Please give me the answer as yes or no in the chat box, whether it is dependent. So mix answer in a chat box. Somebody is saying yes. Somebody is saying no. Somebody is saying no, we have to check from 2A. My answer. CA Pavan Kumar is saying a 16.4 condition must be satisfied. We have not reached to section 16 subsection 4. I'm only and simply asking. Sanjay Jain is saying yes in terms of rule 36 sub rule 4. अब मुझे आप लोग ध्यान से सुनिए. And this is the answer you need to draft in reply to such notices. We are all advocate, chartered accountant watching this webinar. Listen very carefully and answer thereafter. See this fifth condition, which is talking about that invoice and debit note furnished by the supplier in a GSTR 1 and getting auto-populated, which is communicated to the recipient through GSTR 2B. It's a prospective clause as per Finance Bill 2021 and now notified from 1st January 2022. Legal interpretation, to me, very first time, government has introduced a clause which is the part of the provision of the Act. I can very well say from 1st January 2022, my credit is dependent on GSTR 2B. But prior to 1st January 2022, there was no provision in the Act. This GSTR 2A and 2B only by way of rule. To answer. Rule cannot be made beyond the provision of the Act. You all agree with me? Rule cannot be made beyond the provision of the Act. An Act first time providing the provision, which is prospective and now applicable from January 1, 2022. In my humble submission, prior to 1st January 2022, this provision was not there. Hence, my credit was not dependent on GSTR 2A or 2B. Existence of Rule 36 sub Rule 4 is again ultra vires because the provision of the Act, which is prospective, now notified. Yani prior to 1st January 2022, even this Rule 36 sub Rule 4 was ultra vires. My submission. Please tell me in the chat box. I'm looking for the answer. After listening this, prior to 1st January 2022, we should not have any doubt. My credit is not dependent on GSTR 2A or 2B.